Now, as a lot of you that have been following this channel for a little while now probably already know, I was very excited about picking up the new Switch. I was very enthusiastic about it and made a lot of videos about this little unit. So now that I have it in my hands and I've spent the last day playing with it, was I right or was I wrong? Was I right to be excited? Was I wrong to be excited? All the things I said, all the good positive vibes I put into this system, did it actually turn out that I was wrong? Today we're gonna take a look at the Nintendo Switch, give my first impressions on this thing. Okay, so I made that intro look like I was maybe going to sway in the direction of not liking this thing, but I do, I love it. It's a really cool little system, and I want to go into some of the things that I do like about it, a couple of the small gripes that I have with it, because nothing is ever going to be perfect. So let's take a look at the Nintendo Switch and decide for ourselves if this is worth going out and picking up at launch. Well, it's too late for launch, but now is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so the first thing I noticed when I pulled this out of the box, and by the way, I didn't do any kind of unboxing or any video on the first day because this was a big day for me. I love picking up consoles on the first day. I am a massive Zelda fan, which everyone already knows, so this is something I wanted to experience for myself. So when I first got it out of the box, I noticed right away this is a very sleek looking unit. It actually looks really nice and really cool. Like there's nothing bad about the way this thing looks. It's honestly kind of sexy. And it instantly makes the Wii U pad look kind of dorky. This is coming from someone that loves the Wii U pad, and I've never really seen an issue with it. It's always looked kind of cool to me. But the second that I put it next to this thing, I realized how bubbly, how big the borders look. What it kind of reminds me of is like the initial LCD TVs that came out that had like big, thick borders around them. As we went along, we moved into LEDs, we kind of got this nice thinner border, even to the point where we almost had no border at all on the TVs. And these older looking LCD TVs suddenly started looking really dated, and this thing has instantly been made to look dated. So the sexiness and the sleekness of this is awesome. Also, I just prefer the way it feels. I prefer the way you hold it. It's smoother, it's nicer. The only thing that I don't like about this compared to the Wii U is the thumbsticks. I actually like the range of motion and how much push you can get out of these thumbsticks, whereas these ones are very small. You get very minimum range of motion from them. But in saying that, everything I've played so far with Zelda, that hasn't been an issue. But I think that's mostly due to the motion sensing that you do get out of this. For example, when I'm trying to scope in and aim at things in the distance, it's really hard to get that scope accurate with the really short range that you have here. You end up overshooting and going way too far off to the right. You can't really gently nudge it. It's really hard to do that. But with the motion, you can sort of get where you almost need to be with these things, and then drive it around with this, and when you get good at using it, you don't even realize you're doing it. But I tried turning off the motion sensor because generally I don't like stuff like that, but the second I done it, I couldn't aim at anything. I couldn't use my bow, I couldn't hit anything to save my life, so I had to turn it back on. And honestly, it's not bad. There's nothing against it. I prefer the precision of being able to do it on my own without motion sensing. But it's not a deal breaker for me. I don't mind having it on because it actually does work. That is the only gripe that I have between these two. The buttons are smaller, but that's fine. They actually feel a lot sturdier. With these buttons, you can kind of hear just by like me rubbing my finger over them that they feel a bit loose. And they've always felt that way. These buttons have always felt kind of loose, which is really weird to me, and it always was kind of weird to me. But these buttons are really sturdy, they're really in place. This whole unit feels a lot more quality than the Wii U pad. I think possibly trying to cut costs to develop these things was what made it so kind of clunky. But then one of the best things between these two, obviously this is something that, you know, is common knowledge, but it's really cool to me, is the Wii U pad was a projector from the actual system. The system ran and did everything on its own, and then this just carried it over, and you could take it, you know, 15, 20 feet away from the unit and play your games on it, but that was it. It was just streaming to this device. Whereas this is the entire Wii U unit, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. This big, thick, clunky thing mixed with the Wii U unit itself, you can't see it, but it's down there, is actually just this now, which is kind of cool in itself. It explains why the graphical jump isn't as big as it could be, because really the push in this isn't its capabilities. It's, as far as a technical standpoint, it's what you can do with it. It's the fun you can have with it. It's the mobility of it, which when I go for a Nintendo system, I know that I'm not going for top of the edge quality graphics anymore. The last time we really had that was with the GameCube, and GameCube, honestly, for a lot of games was much better looking than Xbox and PS2, but that was the last time, and we sort of suffered through the Wii, and then we made it to the Wii U, and the Wii U was underpowered, but it was a fantastic system that was very underlooked, as I've tried explaining many times, and now we're on the Switch. The Switch has had better marketing, the Switch has better game lineups, and just overall is a better system, so I'm really hoping that this one can do a lot better. We can see a lot more games for it. One other thing that I forgot to mention was a lot of people have been complaining about the position of the thumbsticks. They kind of had to do this because the whole point is to separate these and use them for two-player games. And whenever you use it for a two-player game, you're going to want the buttons to be in the same place for each player. So you're going to want, you'd probably play it either way. You'd either play it like this or play it like this, but either way, the thumbstick's gonna be on the left-hand side, so they kind of had to separate it that way. And honestly, when I play with it, I don't really have any issue with that layout. I don't mind it at all, so. So as far as the Switch itself, once you get it turned on, once you get it all plugged in, I have really solely played it on my TV. I have actually, just today while editing a video, I sat here and played it on the actual pad itself for a little while, and I was actually really impressed by that. I threw it on my TV straight away because I'm playing Zelda, I have a nice TV, I have a nice surround system, I want to play Zelda in my room, and that's the way I'm going to prioritize playing it. And the game looks absolutely stunning, absolutely fantastic. It's already become my favorite Zelda of all time, and I can't help that. There's something about the game that the second you start playing it, you will completely understand what I mean. This game is beautiful, this game is amazing, this game has had so much thought and energy put into it, and I do want to say that I had to buy my own Zelda and buy my own Switch. I'm not in any way sponsored by Nintendo in this video. I can say whatever the heck I want, and what I'm saying is Zelda is a 10 out of 10 game so far. For me anyway, and what I find enjoyable in video games. So I've been playing that on my TV because that's the experience I wanted to have, and I wasn't too sure until today what it was going to be like when I threw it onto the actual unit itself. But as I was sat here playing it, I was actually instantly really impressed and kind of floored by the fact that a lot of the things in the distance, a lot of the mountains, a lot of the sky, honestly, I don't know why, looked a little better on the pad. Like, it honestly did. Things closer up, on the other hand, did have that little bit more jagged look because it is being reduced from 900. Why am I forgetting this? 900p, that's all I had to say. All the way down to 720p, which isn't too much of a jump, but it does make the graphics go a little jaggedy up close. But it's not a deal breaker, and it still looks absolutely fantastic. And having that portable on here, in the scope of what that game is kind of really insane. The actual system itself, as far as around that, is really simple right now. I'm not sure if they're ever going to change that. The menu layout is literally just the games that you have, and then some options. You can go to the eShop, which is very bare right now, obviously, because the system just came out. So there's not too much to talk about there. It's really fast. It's a really fast system. From what I've gathered so far, I don't really ever have to turn it off. I mean, it goes back in the dock and it goes back on charge, but it's always in sleep mode, to the point where right now I would consider it off. And as I said that, I hit the on button, and if I went to go and play Zelda, it's right where I left off and I can keep playing again. And that's how it always is. I just turned it off again. I mean, I'm very new to the system. I'm sure there's a way to completely turn it off so that every time I turn it back on, I need to restart everything. But there's no reason to. It's really fast, it's really smooth like that. I'm probably gonna play it a little bit more, and then when I'm done, put it on the dock. At that point, it will charge up the controllers for me and the pad for me. Now, if I'm putting it on the dock to continue playing and to play it on my TV, which by the way is also a very seamless motion, I would then take these off and put them in the little dog-faced, every time I forget what this is called. I'll be careful with this thing because I didn't get the insurance for it that EB Games was offering for $50 because you don't need that. Hopefully I won't need that. So once I'm done, I take these off, I put them onto here. Now, I was actually considering getting a Pro Controller because I thought this was going to be too short. I didn't think I was going to be able to comfortably play this. But honestly, it's not a bad size. You kind of get used to it. These protrude so much that your hands kind of just sit like this organically. And whether it's sitting like this, or even if it was like a little closer, and I kind of have to squeeze my hands in to get them here, it's actually comfortable. It looks small in theory, and maybe if my hands were like Gangster 81 size, I would have more problems with it, but my hands are kind of big, kind of meat-quarry. They're not too bad. They're not dainty, but they fit really comfortably in this and everything feels really nice. So honestly, I have no need for a Pro Controller right now. Maybe down the line in the future, but it's not worth spending 80-90 bucks on. So if you're getting one of these, you can comfortably have this. You can knock off 100 bucks on your total, or if you're in America, I think like 70-80 bucks off your total on that, because it's not necessary, in my opinion. This works just fine. So with everything I have right now, I'm very impressed by it, and I'm very happy that I bought this on day one for Zelda alone. Because eventually I was going to pick up this system regardless. It wasn't like I was never going to pick this up. There's so much coming out in this first year alone that I want to jump on board with. You know, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, we've talked about this in other videos before. There was obviously at some point I was going to buy this. It's not like there's going to be a price drop in this thing for the first year, the first 2 years. I don't think it's ever going to have a price drop. So at some point, I was going to have to buy this system for the price that it was set at anyway, so why not pick it up with the new Zelda now and play Zelda on the Switch. As far as the new Zelda goes, I've seen a lot of people online talking about how the frame rates are pretty much the same. In fact, it drops in different places on the Switch, which it doesn't on the Wii U, and they essentially look the same. A lot of the draw distances on the Switch are better, but that's really the only big difference between the two. Something that people I don't think realize is that the Zelda was being developed for the longest time for the Wii U. It essentially is a Wii U game, and always has been a Wii U game that kept getting pushed back because it was taking them too long to develop it, and then it got to the point where it was like, let's make it for the Switch. Let's put it on the Switch for launch because we're getting so close to that. So it ended up being ported to the Switch. It's a port. It's essentially a Wii U game that's being ported to the Switch, which is why it pretty much looks the same. It's not, I don't think it's a good representation of what the Switch can do, of what it can handle. I think it can handle better than this. It's just right now, it's just that it's a port, essentially. It's a port from the Wii U. So hopefully coming into the future, we can see some more games for this thing that are built for it, that are gonna look and feel and play and run a lot smoother. But as far as my experience goes, I've experienced very few frame rate drops, nothing that's really ruined the experience for me, that's ruined anything at all for me, and it's a very beautiful and fun game to play. And honestly, even if it drops in a few places, there is so much to this game that it's not going to ruin it, I don't think, for anyone, unless that's something you're really nitpicky about, which you maybe try not to be, because it's not that big of a deal personally to me anyway. So was I wrong about the Switch? Well, everything I've been talking about, was I wrong? Well, a lot of the things I talked about were like the game comparisons between this and the Wii U, and then the marketing, and like none of that was I wrong about. I mean, those were all my opinions, but my opinions on that haven't changed at all. As far as like the actual unit, was I right to be excited about it, to go and pick it up as soon as I could on launch? I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I was able to get a pre-order when I could, because I got one of the last pre-orders available in my area of British Columbia. If it wasn't for Zelda, on the other hand, I can definitely see myself buying this, setting it up, and it kind of gathering dust after the first few days. Even if I got Bomberman, I don't see Bomberman being the kind of thing that I can invest a bunch of time into, like hours and hours and hours on end. And I mean, there's a lot of downloadable titles, but you guys know me, I don't like to download things, I like to have things physical. My buddy Sean found out that you can order the physical copy of I Am Setsuna from Japan. That's something I'm going to be looking at doing because it has English text, and I can play that on my Switch, and that'll give me quite a few hours of gameplay until something new comes out. But if I didn't have Zelda, it would be a little underwhelming. So unless you're a big Zelda fan and you want to get a Switch eventually, and you have the money and the capability to go out and buy a Switch and Zelda right now, unless you can do that, then maybe hold off a little bit. But for me, it was a no-brainer because I had to get this thing eventually anyway, as I said. I am hopefully going to get Bomberman to play with my friends. I am going to have Zelda to play. I'm going to put hours and hours and hours into this. I'm going to hopefully be able to get a copy of I Am Setsuna from Japan. And then once again, we're just playing a waiting game. But I did that with the Wii U, and this is a lot more promising and a lot more hopeful. So it really depends on who you are, but if you picked one up on launch just like I did, you are probably not disappointed. Thank you for watching this video. What do you guys think? Did you pick one up at launch? What do you think? What do you think of your Switch? Let me know down below, and if you didn't get one, let me know why down below, and let me know if you plan to pick one up eventually. There's a lot of things to let me know down below, so just drop a comment. Like this video if you enjoyed the video, and if you enjoy my content in general, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon. I'm gonna go and play my Switch some more. That's a lie, I'm going to work, and then I'm going to play my Switch some more. I'll see you guys next time.